Jerry Cooey, 6049 Arnie's Way. I'm somewhat reluctant to do this, but it become very public, and I'm a person that believes fair is fair. In 2006, I brought my concerns before the Board of County Commissioners about a federal grant that was going through our economic development organization. And a member of this board took it upon himself to take some pretty ugly swipes at me, tried to take food out of my children's mouths, assaulted me in the press, and quite a few things. In 2012, we learned that a former employee of that organization, under sworn testimony, stated that the documents were changed to hide a federal grant. I'm very pleased that that finally came out, but I believe it was handled wrong. At one time, I had the county government after me, I had the federal government after me, and I had the news media chasing around, and my assertions were 100% correct at that time. So at this time, I would allow Commissioner Salter the time to apologize for what he did to me and my family during that period of time.
Mr. Chairman, Jerry, what you had coming, you deserved, and I will give you an apology when you give us an apology on all of the false allegations you made to the FBI, the CIA, and everybody else. So no thank you. There'll be no apology coming from me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, welcome to Santa Rosa Week TV. I'm your very jolly host, Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Nelson. Thanks for joining us.
And,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you all. Hope you and your family are blessed and you have a wonderful holiday season. As always, my somewhat wrong-thinking partner in crime fighting here, she fights me every year about wearing the Santa Claus hats, but as you can see,
that has nothing to do with, it's just because I look ridiculous. It's nothing to do with the,
well, Santa Claus,
not a political thing.
Santa Claus doesn't look ridiculous when he wears one.
Right, true.
I tell you, it was a good sign this year. There is actually a shortage of Santa Claus hats. I really had to look high and low
good to know,
to procure the hats.
That's good to know.
So, well, folks, that was, our beloved county commissioner, friend to all, Don Salter, and in blazing glory, just to set you up with a little more information on that. And if you watch Santa Rosa Week TV on a regular basis, you would know what all that was about. But in 2006, I had gotten reports that there was some
2005.
There was some questionable things occurring with a federal grant that was going through Team Santa Rosa, and
$170,000.
$170,000. The county actually applied for the grant. Then the county,
at their behest.
At their behest, and then the county, once they received the grant, then they told Team Santa Rosa they gave them the authority to oversee that grant.
And to award the money to a company. The point of the grant was to diversify the economy away from the military.
Right. And I had heard, a couple comments had gotten back to me. So at that time, I actually went to a Board of County Commission meeting, and I said, I have concerns about this. The bids were not, when they did receive the bids were not opened by the county procurement office. They were carried behind closed doors, which we remind you that Team Santa Rosa had never had a public meeting at that time. Those bids were all carried behind closed doors and opened. And there was a lot of questions. So I brought my concern to the elected Board of County Commissioners.
And the money was eventually awarded in the form of a contract to a person who had been, and it was nebulous as to whether she had stepped down, the vice chair of Team Santa Rosa.
Right. This was what Deborah and I both considered insider trading.
Self-dealing.
Self-dealing. The state law although it's seldom enforced, but the state law says that if you're part of an elected or appointed board and you have intimate knowledge that other citizens might not have, it is a violation of state law for you to use that information to benefit yourself, your company, or your family members.
Actually, at that time, there was a federal regulation that oversaw that grant that said that you could. The federal government also prohibited it as well at that time as well.
When I made my comments before the Board of County Commissioners, and Deborah and I both made some noise about it, immediately I had Channel 3 News was waiting for me outside of that meeting, and they questioned my ethics and they questioned my integrity and how wrong I was to question the great and mightiful Don Salter and how dare I do things like that. And they played it on the 4 o'clock, the 5 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock news. Well, as my friend Alan Isaacson says, when I decide to bite onto something, I'm going to drag it out of the yard. And I stayed on that deal. And in 2006, the FBI was digging into a lot of these items. And as I stated before the Board of County Commissioners at that commission meeting, under sworn testimony, an employee stated that she was directed by Cindy Anderson to change the minutes to show that the board member was not a board member, and then it wouldn't be so illegal. And
well, the minutes were changed, and we got these minutes to reflect that earlier in the year that person had stepped down from being vice chair.
Right.
That was actually falsified, apparently,
and,
according to this other employee's testimony.
Right. And you know, I am, anybody that knows me, I mean, fair is fair. That's who I am. Don Salter took assaults at me. The press took assaults at me.
We said this last time. I just quickly going to interject it. A letter came from county stationery, county letterhead, to your employer.
Right. And you know, look, folks, I'm a big boy. I got wide shoulders. I'll take the assault. But I was right in this. 100% correct in everything that I had said. And my whole purpose of going up there in late 2005 and 2006 was to try to stop it so that my county wouldn't get caught up in this. Whether they knew what was going on over there or not, I did, Deborah and I both did our best to stop this thing.
Well, I'm just saying this. I made a phone call to the Department of Defense when I was working for a newspaper out of Milton, and a email from Cindy Anderson to the newspaper's management followed shortly thereafter.
And so, but like I said, right is right, fair is fair. I was right, King Salter was wrong, and folks, you know, one of the things that I believe the majority of the people around here understand, not certain elected officials, but I take it in stages. I follow the letter of the law. I do, you know, the investigative work is done, and when I'm right, I think it was only fair for King Salter to apologize. And of course, I did appreciate the fact that he had, you know, linked me with the CIA.
Yeah.
You know, that just goes to show you what kind of a mindset he has.
They're not allowed to operate it inside of U.S. soil, theoretically.
You know, I mean, he had every opportunity. I don't think it was that big of a deal.
Well, the problem is you had a privatized organization that was using basically the good name of the taxpayers to get all this free money. Most of it was government grants. All this free money, and then it was being handed out to people, and who knows what the criteria was. I mean, there was a huge potential for my buddy needs $50,000 here, and his, you know, my girlfriend needs $30,000 there, and they just hand all this stuff out like they're playing cards. And I mean, where are the jobs that came from this thing? I think we followed it down, and several years later, we finally found there were these little
orange sticker
that they were going to put up. Businesses were supposed to put up in their window that said "Business Redefined." That was the product that came out of this. I did
manage to speak to a couple people that had been interviewed.
Right.
And it was what they did was they reached out and found what they thought was some fairly high-profile people, and they asked them 3 minutes worth of questions.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I would guess, just a guess, that $170,000 went to several $70,000 to $80,000 a year type employees, and that was the salary.
Right. And you know, look, I'll just close this out with, of course, this is my humble opinion. For everybody that Don Salter has attacked and assaulted, either directly or indirectly, or to be ashamed of himself, there was no call for all of this. That money never should have been allowed to get over to Team Santa Rosa. It was $170,000. It was, and it was federal dollars, but folks, that's our tax dollars. You multiply that by every city and town in the United States of America, and you might have a better understanding of why we're having problems balancing the budget.
Well, I just want to mention what annoyed me about it when I was at the newspaper was that I called this person who was supposed to be overseeing this, a military person in Virginia who was overseeing this, and said, here's where the money went. Is that a problem according to federal contracting standards for this grant? And apparently the person went and scurried to Team Santa Rosa to tattle about my phone call, because that's where then the email came over to the paper from there. So that's the level of I guess oversight we have at the federal level on this kind of free money.
Right, exactly. And one thing too was when the Pensacola News Journal ran the story for 2 days on the front page that an employee had came forward to say that they were wrong and how they handled it. I did send a copy of that to that employee in Virginia just to let him know.
Is he still there?
Yeah, absolutely, he's still there, and I have full intentions of following up with that.
And of course, if I remember correctly, in 2005, the News Journal also received all the information on this, and there was no story written in 2005 for whatever reason in 2005 about that.
Well, it finally came to a head. But folks, look, and I'm not saying this for Deborah and I to get a pat on the back. It's something that we engaged in. It's something that we enjoy doing, and we believe it's the right thing to do. But if there are not watchdogs in the community, this kind of stuff to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars in every community, and I'll tell you right now, this is where it's most important. The fight to do away with Team Santa Rosa, it really, to the last couple months there, it got ugly. Every trick in the book was used. We now understand one of the reasons for that was because of the restore dollars that was coming down, and they fought vehemently to maintain that organization because there was a potential of anywhere from $40 to $100 million that might be coming into the county, and they wanted to be able to say where it went, and
or not say,
because of our activities and because of bringing this to light. And I certainly want to congratulate Commissioner Lynchard, Commissioner Melvin, and Commissioner Williamson. They have stood very tall in that. We will have a group of citizens that will oversee these dollars. All the meetings will be noticed to the public. Anybody's going to be able to go there, listen, interject, and make comments to it. And then whatever comes out of that committee will have to get past a vote of 5 county commissioners. I will tell you this, unlike what I'm very happy with what's happening in Santa Rosa County. In Escambia County, Mr. Turrat over there has already made it clear and already fought very vehemently against having any citizens on the committee at all. He was actually quoted in the media as Escambia County staff members have already identified where we need to spend the money. And I do want to take a couple minutes while we're talking about Escambia County. My hat is off a group of about 35 folks gathered together in Escambia County. They made their voices be heard. They took on the toured issue head on. They will be gearing up to oversee the restore dollars, and we finally have a what appears to be a cohesive watchdog group in Escambia County. And trust me, it is a target-rich environment in Escambia County.
It's very necessary.
So it's
well, they've got that white elephant ballpark. I mean, it's
right. Well, yeah, and borrow $500,000 and then ask the city to waive it. You know, that thing's just you know, it's caving in. We do need to talk about, and we're not going to go into detail. You know, it was certainly a tragic incident at the elementary school, and I will agree with a lot of people that some changes need to be made. Not changes specifically in gun laws, but one of the things that has always concerned me about this is schools are off limits to have a gun. And what surprises me, and we've heard it in this community, we've heard it in Escambia County, across the United States of America, even before this occurred, the parents and the members of the community, we want a resource officer. We want a trained policeman at our facility. Now, I have to ask myself, why do they push so hard for that? And the only answer I can come up with is this person is trained and carries a weapon. Yeah. And can take out threats that might occur. Right. And you know, and folks, I want you to know that I'm not making light of this. This is a very serious subject with me. But I can't find a report where a bad guy with a gun ever went to a sheriff's department or a police station and tried to rob it. Yeah. There's a reason for that. There's well-trained people, and they're heavily armed inside that sheriff's department and inside that police station. And when a few years back, when we passed the law, well, you know, we can't have any guns around the school. I felt then that was a tragic error in judgment, because what you're saying is this area inside of the fence is completely defenseless. Yeah. Okay. And look, for the voices that are yelling out now that we need more gun control and all this kind of stuff, I tell you right now, folks, if you eliminated every gun in the United States of America, a mentally unbalanced person would pick up a baseball bat and he would go to that same school and he would do the same thing. He would take a machete. He would take his automobile and drive through a lightweight chain link fence and take out a whole wing of the school. They seek out the weak, and they're not so crazy that they don't understand where that is. And you know, I think part of the discussion, and already in the state of Texas, there is one school that is having a very open discussion about any of the teachers and the administrators that go through additional training, not a 4-hour class. Gun handling, shooting, they have to qualify that those members of the administration and teachers at a school will be able to defend themselves. Now, well, I've said for years as a parent, please deputize them. Right. Deputize them. That's part of the job description, is that they have a firearm and they've gone through a sheriff, whatever level class, and then as a parent, you feel 100%. Only the principal in that shooting, just the principal, had a firearm. The guy would never have made it past the main office. Yeah, and you know, I'm so troubled by gun laws that have set that scenario up. Yeah. You cannot legislate the evil
out of humanity. You can't do it.
And I think there's another piece of this, and you know, I'm a small government guy, but it seems that every time that this has occurred, it's been a mentally imbalanced person.
Yeah.
And I'm not one that normally calls for things like this, but I'm starting to think that when doctors prescribe mind-altering prescription drugs to people, law enforcement should be notified and a visit should be made to that house to find out what might be there. You know, in this last case, Mom has bought the guns. Mom has carried this individual to the shooting range to hone his skills.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, she was apparently trying to have him committed, and he found out about it, and that was what set him off.
Right. You know, and the thing that has really changed in society, and I know you saw it, and I definitely know Best Boy over here saw it. When I was in high school, there was a dozen vehicles that had gun racks in the back window that had high-powered rifles and shotguns hanging in them. Because a lot of those guys went hunting before school, or as soon as school was out, they went hunting, legal hunting. And we didn't think anything about it. You know, I think to today, if we still had those rights, that guy that's a pretty good shot at the deer or the squirrel, if he manages to get to the gun in time, he easily takes out the problem.
Well, let me put it this way. My relatives are in the D.C. area. When I go to the mall in the D.C. area, you always have that, you know...
You wonder.
Some crazy, you know...
Right.
You're vulnerable in the mall. If a crazy person, a terrorist, whatever, comes in there, you know you're going to have to... I dive under that clothes rack over there.
Exactly.
I go to the Cordova Mall, that never crosses my mind. Because the person's not going to make it 20 feet in the Cordova Mall.
Well,
before somebody with a concealed carry permit acts.
I just and I'm glad you brought that up. There was just an incident in Oregon, folks. And look, this stuff never makes the mainstream media. Okay, a legal citizen happened to be at the mall. He had a legal concealed carry permit, and he had his firearm with him. He spotted a guy coming in the door with a weapon, and he knew that he meant harm. He pulled his concealed weapon. He chased the guy into the stairwell, and that mentally unstable person killed himself. Okay, that one guy with one gun saved countless numbers of lives. And I just think we really need to, we have to visit the 100% ban of weapons on all of our schools, not just elementary, middle, and high school, colleges also. And we also have to look at folks that have mental challenges. You know, if they're being prescribed, if they're seeing a doctor on a regular basis, we really we need to take that extra step.
Well, and we're already trusting the schools and teachers with our children.
Right.
They're already entrusted to them.
Right.
So, you know, at least give them the ability to protect themselves.
Right. No, absolutely. And folks, just as a matter of reference, the state of Florida was having a real problem with violent crime with handguns. And there was two things. We are a tourism state. Every rental car in the state of Florida at that time had a special plate on it that identified it as a rental car. And over and over and over, the tourists were getting nailed by the bad guys. And it was virtually impossible to get a concealed carry permit in the state of Florida. The legislature looked at it. They made it somewhat easier to get a concealed weapons permit. You still have a background check. You still have some training, full fingerprinting, complete identification, all that kind of stuff. They made it a little bit easier, and they changed the license plates on rental vehicles. In the first year that those two items was implemented, violent crime by handguns went down 68% in the state of Florida. And I'll tell you right now, this is just my humble opinion. If the Santa Rosa County School District approved with the proper training and all of that, made it a matter of policy, it wouldn't matter if there was one extra teacher or member of management that actually had a gun.
Right.
It's a deterrent.
They know it, exactly.
The bad guys won't know who might have one,
Exactly.
and that's exactly what happened with the tourist issue with the license plate. The moment more concealed permits were out there, the bad guys now do not know who might be.
Yeah.
And it makes their job a lot harder. And I just, you know, I am certainly, and I believe Deborah is too, I believe in the Constitution of the United States of America and certainly in the right to keep and bear arms.
And I'm just going to say that the minority, it's a minority, is all you hear voices in the media.
Right.
Say, you know, get rid of the Second Amendment, you know, stop the sale of handguns and so on and so forth. And that's not what the majority of America wants.
Right. The answer is legitimate protective laws that will protect folks and give people an opportunity to defend themselves against evil people. You know, look, there's not one bad guy that he doesn't own a registered gun.
Right.
He's never filled out a federal form to buy a gun.
Exactly.
He could care less about the laws.
And the reason they case your neighborhood is to find the weakest members to prey on.
Absolutely. Well, one final thing, and our federal government is still, you know, they're wrangling. It's the great theater of the physical cliff, and we're playing all this out, and you know, hopefully they'll get to the bottom of this and make a decision. But there's one thing very certain in all of this. We have a group of people, and one of them's name is Jeff Miller, who has been there for years, where the majority of this debt has rolled up upon us, and it's time for all of them to do the right thing, to cut the spending, period, end of story. As it has been said oftentimes, we don't have a problem in taxation, we have a problem in spending. And that is something that
well, we have a problem with the very wealthy in this country not paying their fair share of taxes.
Well, that's where Deborah and I will disagree. I want you all to have a very Merry Christmas, a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you soon. I'm Jerry Cooey.
I'm Deborah Now.